Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to return to Munich and we're going to revisit a brewery that I think I reviewed around a year ago, and of course I'm staying with Daniel now in Bamberg and it was him that brought me the first beer that I tried from these guys, although the Tilmans Biere was a recommendation from you guys that are watching the channel. So for this one we are going to return to Tilmans Biere and we're having a taste of Die Dunkel today. So the last beer that I reviewed from these guys was Das Helles, of course. I said on the channel that I loved Helles beers and one of you recommended this brewery, and I was in Bierotech the other day here in Bamberg and I saw this one, so I thought I really have to review this beer. So as the name suggests, this one is a Dunkel style beer and it comes in at 5% ABV. So really looking forward to this one, and as always I hope you guys enjoy my take on this beer. So anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Tilmans Biere before. Hopefully I can add some more in the fairly near future. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the German beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Tilmans Biere then, these guys are one of the kind of numerous German gypsy breweries that are popping up all over the place just now. But Tilmans Biere was founded back in 2014 by Tilman Ludwig, who is a graduate of the brewing school at Weihenstephan, which is part of the Technical Universität aus München, which you can find in Freising, just close to the main city itself. But apparently one day a friend gave him an old edition of a magazine called Bier, which was a last minute gift basically that she'd found on a commuter train, and Tilman says that if he had not been handed this article he would probably have turned into a cyclist rather than ending up as a brewer. But after graduating from Weihenstephan, he worked for 2 years in Switzerland at the Husbrauerei, which is near St. Gallen, and then he returned to Munich, which is where this company is now largely based. But the beers are of course brewed at two different breweries. One of these is a Weißbräu Schwendel and the other one is Privatbrauerei Gut Forstning, and the labels that he puts on these beers are designed by his friends basically. So this is another one of these numerous German gypsy breweries that have popped up all over the place. There's quite a few breweries that are just kind of moving around. The other one that comes to mind is Himburg's Braukunstkeller, which is a really good sort of gypsy beer brand that you can find here in Germany. Their beers are always very good as well, but this one, Tilmans Biere, they do some awesome kind of more traditional beers, I guess you could say actually. But yeah, they've got a Helles, they've got the Dunkel, and I think I want to say they've got a Weiss beer or an IPA as well. They've got a few different beers, but basically Tilman just goes around to different breweries and uses the spare capacity there. That of course is the principle of gypsy brewing. But yeah, so yeah, really nice brewery this one, and as I say, I really enjoyed the Helles beer that I had from these guys before. So when I saw this one in the Bierotech here in Bamberg, I just had to have a go at this because it is of course one of my favourite German beer styles. I know I enjoy the Helles beers, I enjoy the Dunkels, I love the Rauch beers because that was where my love of beer first began, and also the Doppelbox as well. But yeah, really looking forward to this one. I'll just let you have a little look at the artwork then of this one before we open it up. There you can see it's almost like a blue leopard just kind of chilling out on the log there, which is kind of cool. This one doesn't have a top label of course, which is the little top labels are usually quite traditional for the German beers, and there you can see there is the bottle cap for this one, a custom made bottle cap D I guess for Dunkel there, with the little hop flower. But the artwork on this one was designed by Maki Shimizu, and I'm guessing by the name that is a Japanese artist. He's probably got a Japanese friend down there in Munich. But this particular beer was brewed at the Brauerei Gut Forstning, which as I say is one of the two breweries that Tilman tends to brew his beers at. But a lovely presented beer this one. As I said at the start of the video, this one is a 5% Dunkel beer. So without further ado, let's get it out and we'll get on with the tasting then. Really looking forward to this. Nice little bit of smoke on the opening there, you can maybe see that on the camera, but without further ado let's get it out and into the glass and we'll see how we get on. as I say, it was one of you guys watching the channel that recommended that I try the Helles from this brewery, and it was really, really nice. So I'm very curious to see how the Dunkel turns out. Both of these types of beers, of course, are lager beers. They tend to use lager yeasts and things like that in this one, but 5% Dunkel beer, beautifully presented. And as you can see after we've poured the beer, this one's poured a really dark mahogany, kind of almost chestnutty colour actually. If I put the light through this, it does appear as being a little bit ruby, but there's a nice solid, I would say just over a finger and a half of a frothy beigey tan head on this one. Quite a few big bubbles sticking towards the bottom of the glass there, and a good few little ones just heading up towards the bottom of that head. But you know, overall it does look really nice, and I can tell with this beer it is actually quite clear, but I think going by the colour on the camera there, you guys aren't going to be able to see that too much. If I put my fingers behind the glass, you can maybe see a little bit of the shadow there, but just because of the colour of this beer, you really can't tell on the camera how clear it actually is. But yeah, perfectly clear beer, this one. Lovely dark sort of ruby, mahogany, chestnutty colour to the beer. Some big bubbles sticking towards the bottom of the glass and going up towards the bottom of the head. So in terms of appearance, it is nothing really surprising for a Dunkel beer, but I would say it is a little bit darker than some of the ones I have seen. This is quite a dark looking Dunkel beer, this one. So yeah, as I always say, let's have a taste, a little look at the aroma and just see how we get on with it. Oh, now that's interesting. So the aroma for this one, for me, is quite, there's a lot of nice roasty biscuity notes coming out of this beer. It's got a good little bit of a kind of biscuity, grainy presence to it, this one. But yeah, definitely some sweet caramel in there. The brown sugars that you're getting out of this beer, it's almost like they're a little bit syrupy. There is almost a kind of treacly element to this beer, but definitely a lot of McVitie's kind of digestive biscuity notes to this one. Some sweeter caramel in there as well, but it is definitely a sort of syrupy brown sugar that you're getting from this beer. That's the main kind of anchor of the aroma in this beer. It's really lovely. I mean, you get these some of the Dunkel beers which are a little bit lighter, but for me overall the kind of brown sugary aroma that you get in this one does lean towards the slightly darker, more toasty, roasty side of things. But it smells lovely actually. So yeah, lovely big roasty brown sugars like I was saying. Definitely has some of that treacle, almost molasses type note that you would say. The Americans of course call it molasses, in Scotland we would call it treacle, that lovely dark brown sugar. There's a lot of that in this beer. There's a little touch of a woody kind of nutty note coming out of it as well. A little bit of biscuity sweetness I think. And you've got some nice smooth hops. There's a good little bit of an earthy presence to this one, which is a characteristic of these German noble hops. But you can also get some of the grassy and slightly floral notes too. I think the hoppy side of this beer leans a little bit more towards the grassy side of things rather than anything else. But yeah, lovely smelling beer this, mainly leaning towards the malty side of things. Definitely one of the more malty Dunkel beers that I've come across. A little bit of a red fruity ester in there. I would say it's not even a kind of figgy note, it's more of a sort of, it's almost just got a little touch of a kind of candied red fruit ester, like those little heart-shaped sweets that you get in Haribo Star Mix. It's just got a little bit of that, and almost a little touch of a, yeah, it's really a kind of roasted brown sugary note being pushed a little bit more by a slightly red fruity ester. A little bit of fig maybe, a little bit of a kind of candied red fruit, but overall really, really nice smelling beer. This one, as I say, in terms of the Dunkels that I've had before, I think this one leans more towards the sort of roasty, toasty side of things. But it smells absolutely beautiful. As I always say, take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck into it. But we're going to have a taste of this one now. So this one is the Dunkel from Tilmans Biere, one of the numerous German gypsy craft brewers that are going around just now, but based mainly in Munich, in Bavaria, and the southern part of the country. So let's get stuck into this one then. Slange, Skål, Prost. Yeah, that's really quite nice actually. It's different from a lot of the ones that I've had in the sense that it has a good bready base to it. you would think from the aroma of this one that it's a lot more leaning towards the kind of brown sugar things. You would think this is a big sort of treacly, sweet brown sugar beer, but in terms of just on the first sip that I've had of this one, it's a little bit more along the lines of a kind of well-fired, bready sort of beer. You know, I think I talked in one of my last Dunkel reviews about in Scotland we have these bread rolls, and if you really well fire the crust on them, you get this lovely bready, roasty quality to it, and the flavour out of this beer really reminds me of that. It's like a very, very well fired bread crust, if that makes sense at all. Losing a little bit of the beer there. But yeah, I would stick with that analysis of this beer. It really is. The flavours that I have of this one, from this one are really, it is just like a well-fired bread crust. There is a good bit of complexity to this beer, but the overlying, the kind of anchoring flavour in this beer is definitely that sort of roasty, bread crusty kind of flavour. It really is kind of dominating or domineering in this beer, I guess you could say as well. But I like how this one comes across. I always like that with this beer style, how when you get it from a different brewery, the way that these are kind of blended together is it's always different. That's one of the really cool things about the Helles and the Dunkel and the Doppelbox. Each different brewery does these beers in a different way, and I like how this one's kind of going together. So let's try and break this beer down a little bit so you can feel with this one. I wonder if there's a little tiny touch of black malt in this one, because it really has a very roasted presence to it, and you can just feel that almost being infused on the centre of your palate there, which is really nice. Yeah, I would stick with that. It's very, the thing I will say about this beer is the malt base is very, very complex, and with this being more of a craft brewery rather than a traditional brewery, that's kind of to be expected, but I would think they've used a little tiny touch of black malt in this beer, because you really get that well-fired bread crusty flavour that I was talking about. That blankets the middle of your tongue. On top of that, you get a nice sort of bready, doughy kind of note. It's a little bit of a kind of brown bready character in there. You can feel that just sort of forming the linchpin of the beer. The mainstay of the malt base in this one is quite grainy, but also has some of that roasty black malt in there. In the centre of your palate, you can get a little bit of a sort of brown sugary sweetness out of this one. There is a little bit of that treacle molasses flavour in there, and there's also some slightly sweeter, lighter caramel notes too, and also a little bit of a biscuity malt as well. I think it's fair to say there is a little bit of a biscuity presence to this beer. Yeah, definitely fair to say that about this one. And as the flavour kind of progresses in your mouth, it almost takes your palate a little bit of time to adjust to this beer, but there is a very strong kind of almost German pumpernickel bread sort of feel to this beer. It has that lovely German almost rye bready quality to it, and that's what I always loved about the Dunkels. If you got them to be a little bit more bready, I think this is one that really kind of fits into that category. It's definitely got an almost kind of rye breadish malt based flavour to it. This one I was struggling to sort of pick out the right descriptor for it, but I think that's a really good way to kind of sum up this beer. You've got a little bit of that roasty, well-fired crust in there, but the bready notes that you're getting out of the beer are like German rye bread. I don't know if you can say pumpernickel quite, but it's got a lovely German brown bready base to it, this beer, and there's a little bit of a sweeter note comes out of it. As you go further into the aftertaste, that kind of roasty bread crusty flavour is lingering. Some of the brown bready notes are there, and you also get some of the sweeter caramelly notes coming out of it into the aftertaste too. But it's a lovely beer, this one. It's definitely quite a different interpretation of the Dunkel style compared to some of the other ones that I've had. If you want your Dunkel to be a little bit more roasted and bready, this is one that you definitely want to try, but for me it gets a big thumbs up. I like that little bit more a roasty character that this one has. It's definitely different from some of the other ones that I've had, and when you've reviewed 1400 beers, you do want things that are going to test your palate a little bit. On the hoppy side of things then, back corners of the palate, you've got a nice little bit of earthiness there. As you come further forward along the sides of the tongue, that smooths out a little bit. You do get a little touch of floral character at the front corners of the palate, then round the very front curve of the tongue, it's got a little bit of a lighter sort of grassy note to it, and then behind the front curve of the palate, of course, that's where you get that little oily bubble where some of the nice juicy fruity esters come out of the beer. I think if we go back to the malt base briefly, I think with the malt base in this one, if you come towards the front of the palate just before where we will reach the fruity side of the beer, I think there's a little bit of a slightly woody element to this beer. It just has a little touch of a woody flavour. But on the fruity side of things, I would say that this one, yeah, this is interesting because there's a little bit of that typical kind of grassy citrusy flavour to the beer, but it also has a little bit of the kind of figgy flavours that you would expect. There's a little touch of a figgy note in there, and it's almost got a little bit of a kind of sultana edge to it. But as I say, the kind of dominating flavours in this beer, it's that roasty bread malty character, and it's got that lovely German brown bready note to it. So if you, as I say, if you like your German Dunkels to be a bit more roasty and to have that kind of pumpernickel bready flavour, then you are really going to enjoy this one. This is one of the more unusual interpretations that I've come across of the German Dunkel style, but it certainly works, and I would not hesitate to drink this beer again. This is a really interesting one that I've been able to taste today, so quite pleased with that actually. So I have to say a big thumbs up to Tilmans Biere on this one. It's made me think a lot about this style and what you can actually do with it, so that's quite pleasing, I have to say. In terms of the mouthfeel then, mid-bodied beer, carbonation is quite smooth on this one, yeah, definitely quite smooth. The mouthfeel overall, it's got a little bit of an oily character to it, but overall it is one of the more kind of smooth beers. It does feel a little bit lighter and easy drinking, and just because it's a kind of bottle conditioned beer. Good little bit of sweetness from the malt base, but as I was mentioning, the malt base is very well balanced between the roasty characters and the slightly sweeter notes. There's a little bit of hoppy bitterness from this beer, but by no means is it going to blow the head off you in terms of IBUs and things like that. I think you'd be lucky to get 30 IBUs out of this beer, although in fairness you are getting some bitterness from the malt base as well, and there's a little bit of a juicy fruity quality in there as well. Like I was saying, a little touch of figgy note, a little bit of that kind of candied strawberry sort of thing, and it almost just has a little bit of a kind of sultana flavour to it as well. When you go into the aftertaste of this one, it's that roasty bread crust, a little bit of the sweet kind of German brown bread pumpernickel thing that's there, some of the hoppy notes, and a little bit of that kind of sultana fruity character to the beer as well. But overall, a really, really nice Dunkel, and I'm glad that I was able to review this one for you here on the channel. It's quite different compared to a lot of the other ones that I've had. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this one just now. So this one was the Dunkel from Tilmans Biere, one of the numerous German gypsy breweries that's popping up just now, mainly based in Munich, these guys, but a lovely, lovely Dunkel beer this, and I was glad that I was able to review this one for you. So once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Do check out my social media. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Tilmans Biere as well, but I'm sure I'll return to these guys in the near future. But this was a lovely, lovely Dunkel to review for you, and I hope you've enjoyed this review. So until the next time, slange just now, and I will catch you guys very soon. Die Dunkel from Tilmans Biere, one of the numerous German gypsy breweries, these guys based in Munich. So until the next time, slange just now, and I will catch you guys very soon. Cheers, skål, prost.